Hello, welcome to the January 2020 edition of the Southern Fried DNN User Group. I am excited to kick off the year. I'm excited to kick off 2020 here with my good friend Mandeep Singh of Mandeep's and some of the very exciting solution transforming everything about the way that we're going to be looking at DNN this year and for the next 10 years possibly, that we're going to start here tonight. So we have Mandeep joining us today. To some extent, he's going to co-host with me in that today David Poindexter and Clint Patterson are both away unexpectedly or unavoidably. So they'll be watching this session afterwards. They've supplied me with a couple of questions that they want to ask and things that they would ask if they were here. So I will run through those as Mandeep goes through his presentation in just a little bit. But as we get started here, as we do every Southern Fried instance, we're going to begin with some community news, community buzz, and events. We will then pass off the mic to Mandeep to get into the heart of our presentation. So tonight, of course, I mentioned that our primary presenter is Mandeep Singh. We're going to be talking about how he's looking to revive DNN and change the experience with the new project. I don't know if we knew the code name of the project beforehand, but Vanjaro, if I'm pronouncing that well, is the name of the new product that we are going to be going through and talking about in depth with demo and question and answer as we get into the session. But I would be remiss if I did not mention that we are all excited about our upcoming event here in the States. DNN Summit in Orlando is coming up next month. February 24th through 26th, we are all descending upon Orlando, and we will be doing days of training and 2 days of conference. And for many of us who are bringing in our companies and our teams and our families, we will then be having a wonderful DNN community extravaganza in the area, because I've heard people are meeting up at the Millennium Falcon in Galaxy's Edge in Star Wars area in DNN, not in DNN, in Disney World. I've heard people say that they're going to be going to see Harry Potter and they're going to go to Universal. So there's going to be, I've heard some people say they didn't want to do any of those and they're going to go see NASA. So there's going to be a lot of community fun that's going to be impromptu occurring after DNN Summit. We're very excited about that. But of course, to begin with in DNN Summit, we're going to kick it off with a day of training and then 2 days of sessions. If you haven't really taken a look and planned out what you're going to do and what you're going to see, that information is, of course, all up online, so that you can see not only the training courses that you can sign up for, but within the conference section, you can take a look at all the speakers and the sessions. I myself normally jump in there about 2 weeks beforehand and start paying attention to all the different sessions and all the different tracks that we have to highlight and kind of make my my itinerary list of exactly what I'm going to go see and when I'm going to go see it. Many of those sessions are being taught by or presented by DNN MVPs. And Mandeep, our guest tonight, is, of course, one of those, and he'll be giving another presentation for those who are there at DNN Summit. So make sure to put your plans together. I have heard that the hotel rooms are booked, as in our discount block may be utilized. We keep extending it to see if we can get some more out of that. But if you have not booked a room yet, it's time to definitely do so. Okay, so DNN Summit, the word there is we're looking forward to seeing you. So everyone come and see us at DNN Summit and get a lot of DNN training, a lot of new DNN information, whether we're talking about marketing or development or just utilization and administrative usage. There's a lot of DNN topics and community networking to be had at DNN Summit. Across the pond, right after that, in a couple of months beyond, DNN Connect is in June in Austria. I have not been to one myself. I have to plan that out maybe the next year or the year after that. I will look forward to go soon enough, but this year, unfortunately, I won't be going. but I will be looking forward to hearing about it from those who go. I believe David is planning to go, so we'll get a report on that when that does come. Otherwise, within the DNN community, there are a few announcements and things that are interesting to talk about. We traditionally take off December for our Southern Pride user group meeting, and we normally have a little bit of a dinner or a party locally. This year, our schedules didn't make that happen, so we actually were too busy to even do that. But we missed a set of announcements that would have happened in December, so I thought I would cover a few of those. One of the things to mention is that the DNN community website is constantly getting updates and constantly getting new releases, not only from content that's being put into there, but there are new features. And one of the new features that I noticed in December was the new addition of the resources section, which has a section for DNN releases and DNN GitHub activity. And if you are someone who doesn't live in GitHub and really doesn't spend time in there very much, but you'd like to just see a little bit of a rundown of what's happening, get a sense of what's coming up and what's been done, these are 2 pages that have GitHub feeds, essentially feeding that information. So for instance, within the releases, you can come here to see that 9.4.4 was released, and that we have things like 9.4.3 making some corrections. No, see, 9.4.3, 9.4.4.2 making some corrections that were around with the URL handlers and things like that, so that if you were trying earlier 9.4, you'd want to make sure you're getting over to 9.4.2 to help correct or get around those issues. So it's a good way to kind of come in and quickly see some of this information within the DNN community website, which you should already be browsing for more information anyways. So that was added into the site. There was a bit of a release of a blog article that David Poindexter put out towards the end of December, and it's worth pointing out that it has some good information in it. One of the things described is the structure of the leadership team for the organization. Understanding that everything is driven by the DNN community as the leadership team, we have our different technology groups. So we still have the same structure that we had before, but really David's is changing in nature, and it's a really interesting, welcomed structure change in that he's focusing more on strategy, more on the big picture and changes that need to be made and other things that can help with the 3 other groups all working together or through a singular vision that might help drive things in one direction or another, or help organize that drive. So one of the things he did is put out an article that I think is worth a read. It's a good 2 to 3 minute read. This was put out at the very end of November, so some of the things that are described in here are already in action. So this is Dave's article describing DNN strategy and things moving forward. And one of the things that he mentions is that in his new capacity, he will be first looking at issue management within GitHub and utilizing the tools that are available within GitHub to help organize the progress of what's occurring. There were 2 of those that took my interest. I am not someone who lives in GitHub every day. I would consider myself lightly familiar with working within GitHub, and immediately the benefits here jumped out to me and made me very excited for what change this will make. One of the things mentioned is an organization for the labels, for the identification of issues and elements that are within GitHub, so that these are made more standard so that everyone can use a certain set and the same meaning and understanding of what they are is applied. So from within GitHub, you can take a look at these labels and see issues that are related to these or identified with those labels. But more within the project and issue triage, there's work towards a Kanban-style board that helps you see based on topic or category type, as well as those tags applied, triage for the issues that are coming in. And to me, instead of it being a wild organization or lack of organization of every issue that's come in. This is a great way to get things organized into specific types and to be able to better and more quickly see big issues versus small issues and prioritizing items over other items. And this is really all part of what David is doing as part of an organization of issue management. So I do want to mention that, along with his blog article here or towards this direction, in the March Southern Fried DNN User Group, which will be, I believe, on March the 19th. Our meetings are always the third Thursday of every month, so I believe that will be March 19th. We'll have our next Southern Fried DNN User Group meeting, and we'll probably have another speaker with us as well to do another topic. But we'll at least spend half of our time going over the changes here that are being planned and organized with GitHub and with issue management so that David can really walk us through this because to me, I think this is a big improvement of organization, and it will help us keep moving in a proper direction very quickly in an organized way, perhaps differently or better than we have been doing it now. So I'm very excited about this. Mandeep, anyone else that's on the line, I'll kind of check in just to see if there are any other pieces of news. Looks like Daniel has passed me a piece of news in the chat to mention that there's been a new version of the repository module that's just been published today. So that's pretty exciting news, and that's and part of what I was going to ask was either in chat or if anyone wants to come off of microphone or on the microphone, any other community news that's worth mentioning before we move on? All right. While that is percolating for just a second or two, I will mention a couple of other miscellaneous things. This meeting, as well as many of our meetings for Southern Fried, are supported by the .NET organization, and we have the Code magazine that we get issues of. We get a stack of these to deliver to our members. I often will grab a set of these and pull them aside, and I'll mail a care package out to you with a few stickers from SoFri and a few packets, and if we have swag left over from previous DNN conventions, I'll drop them in there and make you a goodie bag. So if anyone is joining us new or hasn't gotten a packet from me recently, in your chat, whether directly to everyone or if you want to do direct chat me, give me an address, and I will be glad to mail you a care packet out here in the next month or so after we get back from DNN Summit. Two, I do want to mention that DNN Summit has a lot of prizes and awards and things that are happening. We'll be having something that More Creative does regularly at DNN Summit as a tradition is we give out our 3D printed DNN Summit awards. We kind of have here a challenge coin version, and this is what we give out during training, but we'll also have the larger awards for most number of portals in a DNN instance, most number of users in a DNN instance. We have a few different prizes that we give away. And, perhaps for the last year, I might change up something next year, but this year we will have, some of the Star Wars fun that I've been doing with DNN branded lightsabers and giveaways. So I've got a lot of fun coming up at DNN Summit. All right. Well, it doesn't look like we have any other news that people wanted to bring up, so I am going to prepare now. I have been paying attention to this month's session for a little while, and basically back in December, Mandeep's Twitter feed began to have more and more information about this session and about what's coming up for DNN Summit. And Mandeep started with an ambitious 1 video a day plan to put out information out on Twitter with new YouTube videos. And if you go through those, you get really in-depth. They're not short videos. You get in-depth presentation on different items, and I paused the video here on one that was for the map and image gallery where he used DNN Summit as an example, and I've got to say that as I watched through different videos, just one thing that he did in this I mean, everything is impressive. Just a given. But one thing he did in this blew my mind. I fell out of my chair, and I just paused it on that spot of the video. So there's a lot of things to go through in the videos. I'm sure outside of this presentation and meeting we're having today, there's a lot of content that you can go through and pick up. There will be even more by the time we get to DNN Summit. But here for the new product, Manjaro, I was really impressed by information and the way that it's presented. And Mandeep, I think you'll notice that I modified just one little piece of script right here to make this bold just for the presentation, because that alone made me fall out of my chair. So I'll kind of be quiet there and pass the mic over to you and pass the presentation over to you, because here we're going to get quite a treat in that we get to not only see a demo and walkthrough of exciting features, but we get a chance to ask you questions and pick your brain about where you're going with all of this, because I can say for one, this is very exciting, and just from the buzz that I'm hearing from within the MVP group, within community people that I know, within administrators and users of the system, there's a lot of buzz when they see even just a couple of screens. So this is very exciting, and it's gaining a lot of well-deserved attention. So we're excited to have you on to talk with us about this tonight. All right, let me pass you presenter, and we will go from there.
Thanks, Ryan. Certainly, I feel there's a lot of buzz and excitement in the community, and trust me, we are equally excited here at Mandeep.com and the team that's behind Manjaro. We do this for months. Just couldn't wait. It was like, we have to put this out so everybody can see what we're working on. Let me know when you can see my screen.
You are on screen.
Okay, cool. Let me just put some windows here on the screen so I could also monitor the chat at the same time. Feel free to ask questions. That's the whole point here today. The videos are kind of one-way stories, so hopefully I get to ask questions and kind of learn a little bit more. Before I get started, I just want to really quick bring this in, that how this all started. This was actually last year in DNN Summit 2019 in Denver, Colorado, and he was doing a presentation, and he actually said that personally he uses SquareSpace over DNN because it's just much more easier to use, and that's one of the problems he would like to see DNN software solve down the road. So we kind of took it as a challenge for ourselves, privately, without telling anybody, that we're going to go ahead and bridge this user experience gap between DNN and other modern CMS and site builders. So what we did is we went ahead and looked at some of the leading site builders and CMSs and see what was the best about them and what's the worst about them, and the pros and cons. And I'm not going to really go through the slides here. There's a live Manjaro video in our preview videos, so feel free to go ahead and take a look. But what I really want to just get to is, after spending about 3 months before writing any code, we spent about 3 months looking at everything, we finally came up with a mission, and the mission was very simple: to build an enterprise-level CMS that is easier to use than Wix, SquareSpace, or Weebly. So why did we choose to build on top of the DNN platform versus trying to do something new? Because the amount of work it took us to get where we are, it's not far-fetched that we could have just put our own layer in the back and create our own CMS, but that's not where we wanted to go. I mean, for one, DNN is an excellent web application framework. There's not have been a single project that's been thrown to us in the last 15 years we've been working with it that it couldn't do. It's absolutely beautiful in what it can do in the back end. Sadly, it lacks in the front end. I mean, it was one of revolutionary ones 15 years ago, 17, 18 years ago, to come up with a modular concept, which was unheard of back then, but it just didn't catch up with the front end. And over the past few years, we were just tired of losing clients over to WordPress and other CMS. So what started as this challenge, that can we do something like this, quickly got out of hand. And right now, I think we're close to about 70 different Visual Studio projects, just to make what you're seeing in the previous videos. That's all built on top of DNN platform. So we have to basically rip everything off DNN platform that is front end that you actually visually see,
and build that from scratch. So having said that, let's jump right into it. I have a site right here that is running Manjaro built on DNN 9. David's not here, otherwise I would have a shout out for him for the NV Quick Site. I use that all the time, and this was also installed using NV Quick Sites. So I'm just going to go ahead and log in really quick, and bear with me while I move my windows around. Even though I have 3 screens, I'm out of real estate today. All right, so let's just log in here really quick, and now that I'm logged in, and so I see that Ryan there was kind of waving at me with that login screen. So one of the things you would notice that you don't see the vanilla DNN login anymore. So there's literally, I'm going to log out here, literally every piece of front-end functionality is moved. So even if I do a quick shortcut, control equals login, I take that back. It's not set up configured correctly. But if you were to do control equals login, you would see, and you can see my test stuff going on there, you would see our control on not DNN. This is a dev environment, which will have a bunch of issues in demo failures today. But let me go right back in because I forgot the password. So it's easier to just use the known password. But so that's a perfect way to get started here. This is an actual dev environment that I'm working on, gets nightly updated. Things will break today. That is the exactly point of Manjaro. It's an active development, and that's why we don't have a download out there for anybody to go and try and use it. I have lots of people asking when can you get hold of data, but things change every day, so that's why it's not out there. All right.
To ask the question then, is your official release going to be at DNN Summit or just after DNN Summit? What's your target at this time?
So great question, Ryan. Official release, we've had this question asked on YouTube. At this point, we have no idea. Because an official release, when we call something an official release, we're saying that it's production ready. And to get to that level, we first have to have a beta out. So we're not even looking at an official release. We're looking to get a beta out first, which we're going to do sometime this month. So from there, depending on what feedback we get and how many bugs there are and so forth. So then we will go ahead and talk about an official release. But I think right now we're not even considering an official release because it's an active development. I mean, we're continuously adding features on a daily basis. But at some time we're going to say code freeze and let's go ahead and get this version 1.0 out, and we'll go ahead and get the data out and continuously test it, and then we'll talk about a official release. So
all right.
We do have a couple announcements which are planned for DNN Summit, and unfortunately, you're going to have to be at DNN Summit to hear those ones. So I can't really go ahead and tell you more about what we have planned for DNN Summit. As a matter of fact, I have an announcement for today as well, so we'll talk about that towards the end of the session. All right, so I'm logged in. I'm currently logged in as a super user, and one of our goals is that we really got to keep it as simple and as clean as possible. So if you notice, there's no persona bar that's taking space away. There's just little toggle right here, and when I toggle that, I am now able to administer the site. Notice there was no page refresh, and I can go back and forth anytime I like. If you are coming from DNN Paradigm, you can think of this as your persona bar, as your edit mode. It is an integrated UX manager. What we call it, a UX manager basically is there for user experience. And it is kind of also persona driven. So if you're logged in as an admin or a user with just edit rights to certain things, it will automatically adjust and kind of show you exactly what you need to see. So that's pretty cool. And I'm going to just cheat and look around at some windows. There's a lot of things I wanted to cover, so I put notes. All right, so let's explore this really quick. We got our site menu on the top. This is where you do all of your administration. We have our blocks menu. The page is now built with blocks. So there's no concept of dragging HTML modules and building your page. Like I said, 15 years ago, that was great, but today I think it's a nightmare to be able to switch to the source mode of CK Editor just to do little changes or just to type something. I think it's limiting rather than giving me the freedom of we want. So your page is now built with the blocks here, and we have all the basic building blocks that you would need
to build your page. Having said that, Manjaro is extensible, just like DNN. Somebody can come in and create their own custom blocks and either sell them commercially or include them in their themes and so forth. So that's always there. In your blocks, you also see right below it what we call apps. Now, these are nothing but your DNN modules. So every existing DNN module out there is going to work just fine out of the box. So that was a big thing for us, because even though we were changing the entire user experience and how this looks and feels differently, we did not want it to go ahead and segregate that segment. We don't want all the DNN modules to be rewritten just to work here. So the backward compatibility is built in. You can just simply use the existing DNN modules as you would. We also have another concept, what we call design, and these are just blocks which normally you would find in your DNN themes, like a breadcrumb and a menu and logo. And we've stripped that concept out of the themes as well, because I have full control over the entire page. Now, in DNN world today, if I want to have a page, a landing page, where I don't want menu, I don't want logo, I just want one form in the middle of the page, I have to go create a custom theme for that. I have to create a new ASCX, the theme, and remove things out and go that way. Well, here I just simply click on the logo and hit delete. It's gone. But it's not gone from the rest of my site. So it's really cool. I have full control over each page and what I can do. But I'm going to do Control-Z and bring that back out. We'll talk about that in just a quick second. So that's what the design elements, what we call the design blocks, and that's what they do. On the top right here, we have our notification and messages and tasks. The messages here are similar to DNN notification messages. Task is something we built in where our workflow library is there, and there's a bunch of pages waiting for you to get your approval. You will see the number of tasks you have to do. For example, if you are a moderator, it'll tell you have 46 different comments waiting to get approved. So this is, again, integrated, which is a platform functionality that can then go out to each module and that can leverage it. So if your particular module wants to go ahead and use it, it can do. Everything is extensible. There's nothing hard-coded. So every icon that you see here can be removed without modifying the core. It's all extensible. Each one here is a separate extension plugin. As a developer, you can go ahead and add your own or remove them if you want to customize something. And the top
I was going to ask you if the tasks and the messages was built on from the core DNN of messaging or journal or tasks being part of what was maybe in the system but not utilized all the way. If you were had something fresh and new for that, or if you were utilizing something that was underused.
So the messages are existing DNN notifications that we get. That is reused, and again, we did that because we don't want it to break existing functionality. If somebody is using existing DNN site and they want to migrate to Manjaro, then everything would work and should work the way it was always doing. The task is our own. We know Evoke had tasks, and it's probably built into the core. We're not really aware of it, but we created our own framework for task, which is a kind of simplified version that can be shared across all different products and modules. We have a quick shortcut menu on the top, so sometimes you just want to really quickly create a page, use a role, or upload a file. You can always do that through here. You don't have to go through the site menu. And let's see. And let's go ahead and explore. So if you look on the right, you know, it's a very clean design. As I hover over, I get to see exactly what's what. There's an image here, a heading, a button, a logo. When I click on something, I get to see the options on the left. So, for example, the button's right here. I see its options. If I want to go ahead and change its color, I can quickly go ahead and do that. So all the options are going to be left. So as I was saying before, this is what we call our integrated solution. I'm just going to go ahead and turn on one of my cheat apps so I can kind of draw a little bit. So this right here is our integrated solution. Not only does your site administration, not only helps you build the pages, it has everything in terms of your total user experience. So if you understand how one of these works, you understand how everything works. It's not that there's something new that you have to learn every day. So if you click on each block, you see there's a block menu that comes in, The block menu has a move cursor that you can use. It has a copy cursor that you can just use to quickly copy stuff, and it has obviously a delete to delete. Now you really don't have to click there to move things around. You want to move something around, just click on it and move it. It's that simple. So you really don't have to worry about clicking on the drag handles. So that's the notification, not notification, the block menu that I have on the right. So how do we edit? This one of the things we wanted to do is like it really got to be super simple. If I have to edit something, I should be just be able to double click on it and just edit. Whether that's a text, whether it's a heading, whether it's a button, whether it's an image, just double click, choose a different image, I'm all done. Now this is another interesting thing that just opened. So in addition to the left, we have what we call the helper windows that will always appear on the right. When this window appears on the right, you can always click and see a real-time preview on the left to see how it looks. Now, as you can see, it's blocking my view, so I really can't see it all. So you can toggle back and see how your page would really look before you come into that image. Now, at this time, I can't edit anything. It's blocked it because it knows you're previewing it. So it's going to give you that 100% what you see, what you get. This is exactly what your site's going to look like. So I can go back in here, and if I like it, I can close it, or I can just double click on it. So why did we do that? And I'll show you a quick reason for that. If you take a look right here, let's say I'm looking for an error, and I'm looking for a right error. So I click here, and I see that right error is there. Let's just say it was this one right here, and obviously I can't preview it. So I'm going to go ahead and do right again, and I'm going to look at this one. Now, if I close out of this instead of minimizing it, when I come back, I'm going to have to search for it again. So this way, this toggle was built in instead of just closing it. So it maintains the state, maintains where you are, so you can quickly change stuff and go back and take a look where it is. So that's super cool. So again, like I said, once we understand how one of these windows work, we understand how all of them work. So same thing, whether it was image or it was icon, you can click to preview, double click to select. All right, let's see. So we've seen we can inline edit the text, we can change the images, the headings, the button. What about some of the more traditional things like logo? Like, you know, right now in DNN, if you got to change logo, you have to go to site settings, find the logo, and change it. So not very intuitive. Double click on it, and it takes you where you need to be to change that logo. So all I did is double click on it, and there it is. It tells me your logo is right here, and if you want to change it, click on it, change it, and you're done. So it makes administration super easy. It makes everything totally intuitive. You just kind of double click and change things versus trying to look for them. All right, let's see what next. So what about resizing? Everything has resize handles. So if you want to go ahead and resize something, you can go ahead and resize it just the way you want. As you notice, it's doing aspect ratio, but if I hold on to the shift key, I can do a free flow as well. Now, I don't like that, so I'm going to do Control Z a couple times and go right back where I was, even on the top there too, if you notice. So we have undo and redo built right into it. Every change you make is kind of monitored in the back, and you can Control Z your way out of something that you don't like, or use Control Y to do redo. We can not only resize button images, but everything that should be resizable. If I want this icon bigger, I could. So there's basically all those options right there. And like I said, we are in active development, and that should be one state of undo instead of doing 5 and 6 or 10 times. But that's something we're currently working on, and that's why we don't even have a beta out yet. So how do we move things around? Like I showed, you can use the handle, or you can use if I want to move something around here, I could do that as well. I think I just broke something with that, so I'm going to refresh the page here really quick and go down here and kind of show you. Let's say I want to move this Twitter icon to the right. Oops. Oops. Too many bugs. Let's see. Okay. I firmly broke something. It's just never fun.
Undo, undo, undo.
Yep, I could do undo. As a matter of fact, I was playing with some of the latest stuff that I just got, and I think that's what's causing the issue. So let me just, behind the scenes really quick, try and delete that. Hopefully that'll fix all these issues. So bear with me here, just a quick sec. And that's the fun of doing live demos on a alpha product. Alright, just deleted that, so I'm going to go ahead and do Control F5 here a couple times. It should hopefully fix that issue. Okay. Alright, so let's see if this works this time. Nope. Okay. So we'll skip the drag and drop demo of resizing. For some reason, something broke in the back, and we'll come back to it later. That worked. So I can move the card around there. Let's move this guy around. That worked. So it's probably these icons in the bottom that something's going on. So what I really wanted to show is you could obviously do copy quickly and create multiple buttons. Now when you're dragging and dropping, you can just certainly drag a button, but I could actually use Control key, or Shift key rather, which again is not working. There.
But you were about to say shifting multiple items and moving them all at once? That's very nice.
Yeah, there you go. So
very nice.
I could do that. I can hold on to Control key and bring them right down as well, and go ahead and central line that there. So, of course, there's lots of different bugs. I mean, we've been doing this every day, and it takes a lot of time and effort in getting these resolved. And we will go ahead and push that data out when we think it's to the point where it's stabilized, which we are definitely going to be there in this month. It's just I'm working off an IP build, and things change every day. So, all right, let's move. Unless there's any questions here on your page builder, although there's a bunch of them going on the right. Hold on.
No, we have questions coming, but you're going to get to those in a few minutes. So let's go.
Oh, okay. So Mike's asking what version of DNN this run on. So right now I'm running on DNN 9.4, I believe, Mike. We are going to be using whatever the latest version of DNN at the time of release as the minimum version. So it is not something that you install as an extension. You would basically upgrade to Manjaro just like you upgrade your existing DNN sites today. All right, so let's explore something on the bottom. We looked stuff on the top. On the bottom, I have this icon here, which takes us to our page settings. So if you're familiar with DNN, you have your page settings, and that's what we have here. Like you'll notice, we've redone the UI for everything. It's nice and clean. That's your page name right there. Whether you want to display it in the page or not. Your permissions. We had to rewrite all these controls. So there's not a single user control in DNN that we're using. If you understand DNN, if you're a developer, you could understand that as a mammoth amount of work we went. So every little ASCX that was in DNN is no longer being used. We redid everything through HTML5, JS, and Web API the SPA way. So this is pretty cool. I actually really like this here. If you want to add a new role, you can just kind of look for it right here. Oh, looks like I don't have one, but I think I have a user. So let's look for one there. So this is another favorite thing that I like here is you actually get to see a picture too. So visual makes life much easier when you're working with things. Worked on SEO also too. It's really hard to understand what's going on. So you could see a search preview right here what the page would look like in Google and other searches. As I change this is changing in real time. So there's basically no room here for now errors. The description will be auto-generated by the search engine because we haven't provided one, or I can explicitly go write one, and it shows right there. Obviously, I don't know how to spell. The URLs are right here. So just like DNN, this is my home page, so that's my home page URL. If you have multiple, it will do the 301 and so forth, and you can manage those right here. This is the only URL, so I can't remove or delete it. But I'll show another page where we can handle that URL functionality that's built in, and you got your header tag and sitemap priority if you're doing something more custom. There's scheduling there for your page if you want to do start and end date, and that's about it. So one of the things we wanted to do, again, keep it extremely clean and simple. Today, when we go into DNN page settings, we're looking at caches, we're looking at web slices, we're looking at a lot of stuff that has been nothing but technical depth from the last 15 years. I don't think we need to worry about that today. I mean, that is something that the platform can figure out and make the correct decision for me. So all of that is gone out. I mean, the end user really doesn't need to worry about all of that stuff. So page setting is extremely clean here. There's our navigator. So you build your page, and the page can be extremely complex or super simple. I mean, if I go down here, I see there's a bunch of different icons. So the navigator lets me visually see my page. As you can see, there's 4 sections of this page. There's section 1. And I'm scrolling on top. There's section 1 on the top. There's section 2, section 3, and section 4. Notice now I'm hovering over it. I don't see it. So when I click on it, it will actually take me to our section and bring it into the view. That's super cool. So I can click on it, and it'll tell me where my section is. Now, on the contrary, I can also go down here and just click on an icon right here, and it'll tell me where that is. So that's super cool. I don't have to hunt for things. This really makes life easy if I want to figure out what's going on in terms of my visual semantic HTML content. Now, if you're not a developer or you don't worry about it, you don't have to use it. But it is still pretty good for certain purposes. Let's say if I decided, I just don't want this column here, how would this look? So I can go ahead and toggle that visibility off. I haven't actually removed it. It's there. I want to bring it back. It'll come right back up. Now, if that wasn't there and I wanted to experiment with my design, I'd have to remove blocks and add them and delete them and keep repeating that process. So this visibility helps. Also, sometimes you want to move things around. For example, I got this whole section right here and section right here. Now, I can certainly take this entire section and just move it. Let's take this section in the bottom and move it to the top right here. And I just did that. So let me Control Z out of that. And instead of doing it through here, I could have just as easily done that from here too. I can just take this section, move it here. Now, when I'm dealing with such large sections, sometimes it's hard to drag and drop them because your page view is just so limited. It has huge sections, so I can't scroll the page. Then it makes sense to just kind of do it from there. But you can use either option, and it's available right there. So what else can we do with Navigator? So some of us really like to name things. I mean, if the section right here and you want everything named, you can go ahead and change that and call it my services section. If that helps you in setting up your page in any way, you can certainly go ahead and do that, and that helps. But Navigator is really there for edge cases where you really want to know what's going on and figure out what's going on. For example, this box, I built this myself. This is nothing but a div, and then there's an icon and a heading and a text in it. So sometimes if you don't know what's going on, if I click on the navigator, it's really obvious that there's a box there, and I can toggle the box on and off, and there's a box right there.
So,
inside that,
so Mandeep, when you're toggling those on and off for visibility, is that the same thing as though you deleted it and then you're basically deleting and undoing, or is it just visibility on and off? How does that correlate with your publish button action?
It's just visibility, so you're not deleting it. It is just, because if you wanted to delete it, that option is always there. You can delete and do Control Z. But that visibility is basically hiding it from the CSS. It is still there on the page, and you can actually go ahead and publish it. And it will still be on the page, but it would just not be visible. It was hidden by CSS, so that's there. And again, you would, if you want to hide something, you would not go to the navigator. We have a whole styling tab just for that. Navigator is just right here when you're trying to look at something and you're like, okay, what would really happen if that heading was not really there? So it's really quick to go ahead and do that when you're actually designing the page versus trying to figure out that I want to publish it. How do I hide something? Navigator cushions on the right. Hold on. Ryan, I'm going to ask you if you could read some of those questions, and if you think it needs my attention, if you can bring it to me.
Yes. Yeah. No worries. I'll sprinkle them in as I see them come. Here, this is a question of that the navigator seems really exciting, but if you have a lot of things in there, does it have a search feature to it so that you could search and jump to items by name or by content in the search? So maybe a feature addition.
Right now we don't, and I think it really doesn't make sense until you actually go name everything. Because otherwise, if you're going to search for section or icon or block, you're going to just see all the blocks that reflect that. And our goal here is to make it super simple. We really don't want people to go name them. Like I said, this is really there for an edge case. I've never used it in whatever I've built, but this is, we can see why this is useful when you got maybe 500 blocks on the page. So it makes sense. So having said that, can we build a search functionality? Absolutely. And if that's needed, we can certainly go ahead and do that. All right, so let's go ahead and move forward. So while I was making these changes, like for example, I changed this to about us to what we do, and I was playing with other things. Everything was being saved, auto-saved in the background. And I can tell that because when I toggle this off, you'll see my publish page didn't change at all. My colors are still there, about us is still there, the original image is still there, everything's still there. So Manjaro saves everything in the background for you, and what it's doing is automatically creating a draft version for you. So if you come right here to our revisions tab, I see that a draft was made at that time, right there, which I believe is totally off. Then my clock is probably UTC or something right now. So it's something we have to fix. But this is the published version that is currently out in the display. Now if I click on it, what I'm going to do is revert my current draft to published version, which I can certainly go ahead and do that. And let's go ahead and click on it, and there you go. So it's now showing me this is what you had published, and this and I've basically reverted back to it. Now I really didn't even need to revert back to it because it was the published version. So let's kind of put this into perspective. Let's say I wanted to change this to what we did. I don't have to hit save. This is already saved, and I can tell that because this is what I see here. I also have a preview button here that I can click on to see what is my current draft looks like. Now, I haven't published this, and for obvious reason, I'm making changes. I don't want them to be reflected live on my site as I'm making them. So once I'm done making those changes, like right here, I can go ahead and hit publish, and now I've published my draft to actual live world. So if I collapse this, it's going to now show what we did. So that has the workflow kind of built in, which we call staging within DNN. Now, there's full workflow also built in, where you can create your workflows, and it has to go through many different hoops to get approval before the page is actually published. But that is something we'll show and demonstrate probably next week. It's just waiting for a couple more bells and whistles to be ready. So one other interesting thing is, and now your page is built off blocks, so you're really not using an HTML module. The traditional DNN page, 90% of it is just HTML module on the page. So what do we use modules for in Manjaro? Well, modules are there for applications. You want to run a blog, then you would grab a block and drop it in. You want to run a forum or Q&A, or you want to run a help desk, then you would bring it in. So having said that, the question really comes in, if I get rid of a module, which I can just click and get rid of it, let me go ahead and bring a module in and excuse the presentation. It looks funny right now, so I'm just going to go ahead and refresh this. Again, work in progress. But there's my Lifeforms module right there. So it's on the page. If I were to go ahead and delete this and publish, I do Control Z, so it works throughout everything, not just blocks. You can Control Z with your modules as well. I'm going to go ahead and publish this first. So now I have a Lifeforms module on the page. It's there, but I don't see it because there's nothing in it.
You need to configure it. You need to put stuff in it.
Yeah,
make it a form.
Exactly. So let's.
Yeah, I use Lifeforms all the time. Let me tell you how to use it, Mandeep.
Where did it go? My team's there watching. There's a bunch of them watching, and there must be scratching their heads that it works when we do it, and I don't know why it doesn't work when it's in demo. So
because it's a demo.
Yeah, that's the beauty of live demo.
The magic of live demos.
Yep. So we'll go back to that grid really quick. It's awesome, but let me just go ahead and demonstrate what I was doing here. I'm going to add it in, and it looks funny because something was still working on, so I'm going to refresh it. And there it is. I'm going to close up. Again, it's missing because I didn't publish it. And they're probably sending me messages that I don't know how to use the thing. There it is. So because I didn't publish it, obviously it doesn't appear on the page. Let me go ahead and really quickly drag something in. Like I said, ignore all the CSS issues here. But there is a text box there, and now you see it on the page.
What you just glossed over, though, was how beautiful the screen of settings for your form, live forms, was off to the side of the screen along with the other edits that you're used to seeing. You drag your text box from there.
Correct. Well,
and it was over on the left-hand side.
So, Ryan, we've been getting a lot of questions from the community. How are we going to make money if you're going to make this open source, right? And we're going to continue to do what we're doing, which is to sell products and applications, for example, live forms. And not only, I mean, right now you're used to this. With the live forms that's compatible with Manjaro is going to come out. This right here will disappear and
will be over there.
UX Manager, and it will start showing right in there. So it's going to be totally.
But it would also appear on the right-hand side of the page, right? It wouldn't be on the left; it would be on the right.
Nope, nope. What I'm saying is you're going to see exactly this when you go on Manage, and all your elements will be right here. You
I see.
So it's just an integrated approach. But let's come back to revisions. Now that I have pages here with a module in there, let's say I get rid of this module and publish the page. So now if I go to my revisions, this is my current published version that doesn't have live forms. Here's another one which I can restore to, which has live forms. There's one before that which didn't have live forms, right? I'm just simply going back to revisions to figure out, I can go back into history to any time and place when I click publish, and there's absolutely no limit to how many times I can go. The number's right there. You can change that to 50, 500 to maintain your revisions. But what I wanted to really demonstrate, which is cool concept, is in DNN, once you delete a module, it's sitting in recycle bin. And sometimes it's sitting there for years. I can tell you because on our live site, they're sitting there for like years sometimes. You just don't go there and hit empty recycle bin. So we've built this intelligent functionality where we check these revisions. If the module disappears from your last revision, meaning it's no longer appearing in any of the revisions, we get rid of it permanently. So there's no concept of recycle bin in Manjaro that's managed for you. That means if I got 50 revisions here and one of them still has live forms, that live forms will still be preserved. So you can always jump back to that page in that point of time. But let's say you create a 51st revision and that last revision just disappears. Basically, there's no way to go back to live forms now. Then we also get rid of the module from the back. So that's pretty cool. How are we doing with the time, Ryan?
We're doing just fine.
Okay,
We basically have a standard meeting going for about another 40 minutes until 8 o'clock. But if we need to, we can always extend until 8:30. So you are in great shape for time.
Okay, cool. So, all right. So that's revisions. I wanted to go ahead and kind of bring that. I think that's extremely cool that you don't have to worry about recycle bins or restoring your modules. It's automatically taking care of them for you. Having talked about recycle bin, there's no recycle bin at all in Manjaro. So we'll look at how pages and users recycling happens as well. Let's move on. So we've looked at page settings, we've looked at navigator, we've looked at revisions. So I'm going to go ahead and next one, and this is the device preview. I mean, you want to see how your site looks in tablet, you can come here and do that, and that's the mobile view. So pretty easy, pretty quick. You can do that. Now, it would be a shame if that's all this did. You know? So there's a lot more that we built into it, which is honestly blew my mind when we started playing with it. But that is something you have to wait till the DNN Summit. So I have a couple things that we can't just share yet, and just that's because it's still getting some final touches. But this will certainly be one thing that will blow your mind. This is not just there for us to quickly do device preview. I mean, that's great, but there's more we can do. So we'll talk about that later. We've already looked at preview. Now, I talked about that everything is extensible. Every single icon is an extension, so you can remove or add anything you want. And kind of did it in a way, so if there's more extensions than we can show here, then you get a little toggle. So literally, you could build 500 extensions and you'll have 500 icons, and that wouldn't really look nice, but that's possible. Or you can remove these. If you wanted to remove this, you can certainly do that as well. And here's the visual icons if you wanted to go ahead and redo and undo instead of...
Mandeep, when you add those or remove those, that's for that DNN or Manjaro instance, or that's per role, that some are appearing to roles and others not? What kind of granularity do you have?
So these are actual extensions. So these are per instance. These are actual extensions that get installed at the host level, at the instance level. And it kind of makes sense because you're not really trying to take these things off per portal or per site. It's more like if I want to use Manjaro to build my next SaaS platform, and I really don't have a need for, let's say, full screen or languages or something. Well, languages obviously only appear if you create multiple languages. But my point being is if you want to take one of these off, you can certainly go ahead and do that. For example, let's say Navigator is a perfect example. I really don't want to confuse my users with that Navigator, so I can go ahead and take it off. So there's undo, there's redo. There's also what we call view layout. If I click on it, you'll see a bunch of grid lines. And this is showing you exactly how the page is structured. For example, if you look right here, there's a section. If I look right here, there's a column. If there's a column, there's got to be a grid somewhere too. So there's a box and so forth. Now, this is, again, for that edge case that you need to. You will never need to use this because when you drag an icon, we turn that on for you. So you know exactly where you're dropping it. And as soon as you drop it, it disappears. So that makes life super easy. But it's there if you need it. There's full screen, so if you want to do editing in full screen and you don't want the browser in the way, you can do that too. And this last one is, again, not functional at the moment, but that's for multi-language sites. 95% is done, and this is where you'll see your languages defined. This is going to be another awesome presentation video when we get to it. You simply switch to Spanish and start writing your Spanish content. That's it. So we'll have a video coming for that very soon too. Multilingual content, workflow functionalities. I mean, the way currently workflow is handled in DNN is a nightmare. I have to tell clients that I recommend we don't go that route, where we have multiple modules for each language on the page. I'm talking about dynamic content localization. It is absolute nightmare because setting it up is a nightmare. Maintaining it's really bad. The client comes to us a month later is, I can't figure out how to do this, and half the time we can't either. So that's one reason why we see so many multilingual products in store to handle that. So I think that's another great asset here. It's extremely easy and super simple. All right, so let's move on. I'm gonna go ahead and demonstrate some of the other stuff, and let's go ahead and create a new page, and I'll do it there. So I just created a new page, and it's right here. I'm just gonna go to it, and the reason I did that, and if you notice, when I was creating a new page, I chose blank as my layout. So I could actually start with a blank page, which again was not possible within DNN because I'm forced with the skin elements that come with it. So let's see if I wanted to set up a blank page myself. Let's see what it would do. So I'm grabbing a grid here, and as soon as you grab a grid, you get quick layout options, which is what columns do you want. You know, you got a bunch of sidebars options. If you want left sidebar 33%, 25%, or right sidebar or sidebars on each side, or a bunch of columns. And you also get your fixed and fluid options on the top. So I'm just going to do one column. It's right there, fixed. And just so you can visually see what I'm doing, I'm going to grab a section and change its background color to a darker color. And then go ahead and drag my grid to it. Okay. Okay, there's the grid, and there's the reason I changed the color. If you notice, I'm going to do this one more time. If I drag the grid out, I still see that column, but it's kind of light. So it kind of automatically adjusts and cues and gives you the cues, so you know exactly what's going on in terms of your layout. So there's my grid column. Now, the reason I was having this challenge of dragging it, because when I was clicking on it, I was actually clicking on the column, not the grid. That's what this little cursor here comes handy for. So if I click on it, it's going to go one up and select the grid for me. So now I'm actually clicked on grid. And the way I can tell on the left, if you see, these are my grid options. If I click here, these are my column options. It will make more sense if I go ahead and change my mind. I don't want one column. I actually want two columns. So I resized it. I'm going to copy it. So there you go. We got two columns. So now it makes perfect sense, right? There's column there, and that's what I'm selecting, and there's column here. And if I want to go to grid, I can still go that way, or I can try to eyeball it and click in the middle, which is not fun. So that's why it's right there. So you have full control. You can create any layout you want. It's super fluid. It's super easy. Just as easy to copy and create more, and just as easy to control, select multiple, and hit delete key on your keyboard and get rid of them. So all those Control Z and all those keyboard shortcuts work just fine. I can always go ahead and move the columns around too, and to do a demo like that, I think it would make more sense if I grab a text in there and put something in here, and let's grab a text here, and let's go ahead and change color of one of them, so at least I can see what's going on. So here's one column. Now I can go ahead and move it here. It's super easy, and it's not that I can just move it around within my grid. I can move it and drop it anywhere on the page. If I want to take to another grid, I don't even have to have it in the grid. If I want this text to come right outside, I could. So it's not like I'm limited to a particular section. There's absolutely no limitations. It will automatically, intelligently figure out what it needs to do to the markup to make it work, and it will transform it for you. All right, so let's look at the grid alignment right here. I'm looking at it. There's the fixed and obviously fluid. I'm not stuck with that. I can always change that anytime I want, so that's there. There's left alignment, there's center alignment, there's right alignment, and then there's the flex options there too, which is around and I believe between. So I can quickly create any layout I want with this these alignments. Let me go ahead and just add some more text here to demonstrate this next part. If I click on a column,
yeah, is this flex box was what one of the questions was going to come, and you're actually moving to the demonstration.
Correct. So we have the flex utilities in there, which lets you do that. So this, again, now it's easier. I don't have to eyeball. If I click in the middle, that's a grid. So I have these options here. But if I click on an actual column, I got my options there too, so I can center align it. So here's the thing. It may not see central line, so I'm going to move it up here. Oops, another bug. Let's see, there's something probably wrong with the text block, and that's why we haven't done a video on it yet. But here's a button, and as you can see, I can center align it, and I also have the vertical control. So I have full control over my column, how it needs to look like. So that's pretty cool as well. All right, what else do we want to look at? Yeah, so one of the questions we had I'm going to go ahead and get rid of this and add another grid. One of the questions we had from the users on YouTube is, can I have a bunch of columns and then add more columns, do a 4-column layout, and let's do a 3-column layout, and then let's do a 2-column layout. Maybe right here, and then have a full width in between. So yeah, absolutely, I can always drag as many grids I want and put a full width in there. I can go ahead and do the same thing. I can do as many columns I want, 3, 4, 5, 6. So really there's no limitations. And if I want to go back to fixed, I can always grab another grid and go ahead and do that. Now what you're seeing here kind of mimics what a pane would look like in DNN theme. You really don't have to go build your pages out like that, but if you have a complex layout, then you can certainly do that. So basically no limitations in terms of the grid here. Let's see, we got one column here. You want to nest columns within columns? Absolutely. You can grab another grid and drop it in there. So I got 3 columns within there, or I got 6 columns within there. So,
Mandeep, this is possibly a question for later, and if so, skip it if you need. But what are all of these things? You've described that this is the setup of one page with one set of content instead of individual HTML modules and the bloat of all of that and the flexibility intended, but then the nightmare of combining so many different HTML modules. In the end, if we looked at this in the database, what you've built so far, does this go in as one HTML module, and this is actually one HTML module for the whole page? What is this in the back end?
Okay, so the question is this one HTML module? So there is no HTML module at all, period, in Manjaro. So what is this? And that's where there are breaking changes to how DNN works and how Manjaro works, is we are not saving the page as a bunch of different modules. We are saving a page as one big page. So you could think of it as a one big HTML module, although there's no concept of HTML module. But it's not as simple as that. What we're saving at the end of the day is a JSON version of your entire page, of the components, of everything that makes up that page. We're also saving a pure HTML version, which we actually serve out to the clients. When somebody hits the page, we want to just show them HTML. But when you want to come and build it, we use the JSON tree to figure out exactly every setting that you were working with. Yeah.
And is that utilizing basically the caching element of DNN? So the JSON is really your build, your ingredient, and that HTML is your cache of it?
No, so if you look at the actual database, you'll see 2 different columns where one is storing the JSON and one storing the actual HTML. We don't want it to, so performance was super critical to us. We didn't want it to do any conversations on the fly. So at the end of the day, when we're serving this page, it is no different than an HTML stored into an HTML module. We grab it and serve it. But when you click on, so basically when we go here, it's and the reason I don't see anything, guys, is because I didn't publish it. So that's the draft version. But if I publish it and I go back here and a bug, let me go ahead and refresh.
I don't think it published.
Oh, I didn't? Oh, no, sorry. There's no content there. These are just visual indicators telling us there's
it's just structure, right? Yeah.
It's just a structure. There's no content. If I actually grab a text there and publish, I'll see it. So I'm still getting used to it myself. Anyways.
Yeah.
So the question there, Ryan, is when I look at this view right here, this is HTML just coming from the database. But when you go here, this is where we use our copy of JSON because we really want to know which setting. Because right here, if you use this is the primary color. This is the danger color, the info color. So we're actually storing in JSON that what color you were using with.
Yeah, a lot more data going into it. Yeah,
because you could change that color through your theme at any time.
That also explains how your page versions were so quick to change what you had when you loaded up your versions, because you're loading up JSON set 1, JSON set 2, instead of anything you need to do to reload a page.
Well, the way this works is every time you click on it, if I go back here, I'm going to lose everything I've done here, but this makes a API call and says, hey, I want this version back, and gives me the other JSON back for that version. And that's exactly what it does. And it's super quick. As you can see, there's a loader in between, but by the time it starts to come in, I already have the page in there.
So we'll have a few more questions going down this path. I didn't mean to interrupt the flow of where you're going. Would you like to continue down this for a minute, and then we'll come back to some of these questions?
No, we can answer those right now. I think we could take a break here from this grid and answer some of those questions, and then I can continue.
So, if pages, pages don't reside in a normal way, in a traditional way of what we're used to in DNN. They're unique to Manjaro for the way that the pages are put in here.
So we're leveraging the DNN framework, so everything is happening just the same way as you're familiar with DNN. So there's a tabs table which has all the tabs being created. The difference is, in the past, we had a bunch of these modules would come from the tab modules table, which still happens because you can still add modules to the page. But the core page itself, which is the entire page, which has all these blocks, is now actually stored in a separate table. So just like there was tabs module, there's another table, I believe it's called, there's a prefix of VJ for Winjaro, and it has tabs of VJ, and that's where it's stored.
It feels familiar to me as an extension. Having used live modules and Mandeep's modules for a long time, it feels to me like a progression of what we got used to with live tabs or with live content, with the idea that you have content and you can have modules and they're all pulled together into this thing. It's almost as though that's grown up into a larger shell that applies that same concept.
Correct.
Right?
Yep.
So a question here then is, if you have a whole page and that is stored as HTML to be quick and the JSON for operability with what's there, do you still retain an ability to have a portion of the page visible to logged in users and another portion of the page visible to non-logged out users, and two buttons visible to only people who have a membership role? Is that still present as an ability?
So your question is, if I understand correctly, if I only want this particular section visible to certain rows?
Yes, yeah. I think so. I think that was the question.
So if that's the question, then remember, we still have the DNN way of doing things. I can always drag in a module if I want for that exact application and functionality. That's always there. Then I can go ahead and control permissions. So for example, if, let's see, go back to see where we had our live forms here somewhere. So
there you go.
There's live forms, and I can still go there, and there's my permissions right there. So obviously we have to redo all that, but you can certainly go ahead and show content based on the role, based on those permissions.
So perhaps the page is global or all users, and then individual modules can then have some permission changes.
Ryan, can you repeat that one more time?
So it seems like the main base page would be for all users, and then if you have something you need to show to a specific user type, then that's because you put a module on the page and then you give roles to that module.
Well, that would be a hack. What we're still working on, and we're not there yet, is what we call personalization. And we will have that built in the core, where you will be able to take a block and personalize it for the person who's logged in.
Okay. All right.
So it's not that you're going to have to drag a module to do that. You will be able to take a block or a section and then personalize it for certain security rules. Yeah.
Gotcha. More to come then. Got it.
Yeah, there's far more to come. Trust me. There was a reason when we said that we'll release a video every day, because even if we were given 2 weeks to continue talking about it, we wouldn't finish. This is just the tip of the iceberg. There's just so much more in the background we have. Some of the questions here is, can the grid be adjusted behind for widths and media breaks? Scott?
Yep.
Remember I promised something here that we will reveal in DNN Summit, but all I can say right now is the answer to that question is yes, but it is super cool the way we do it. So find out in DNN Summit. We'll have a video out afterwards on that. So the answer is yes. If the page is stored as complete page, can you, we just did that. There was another question on top is, can we create a page and use it as a template? Absolutely. We haven't covered that yet, but that functionality is built in. So right here, this is my home page. I can go ahead and click Save Page as Layout, give it a nice shiny icon. Right there. Give it a name, so let's just call it Home, hit Update. Next time I go build a page, it's right there. If I click on it, it's a copy of my layout. So we'll cover that in a video in detail, but it's built in. So that also brings another question. If the entire page is kind of has to be built from scratch, or can be built from scratch, then you miss out on the DNN skin, where it's giving you a header and a menu and a footer to begin with. And that was the whole purpose of these layouts. When you're going to click here, You don't have to start with a blank. You can start with a default page, which will have your logo and your header and your footer and all that stuff in place for you. So that's exactly the purpose it's solving. Pages, let's see,
I think you're caught up on questions.
Okay, cool. So let's go ahead. I mean, we'll come back and explore these pages, but I still have more to talk about in the blocks. If you've seen some of these videos, then you're aware, so you can go ahead and ask any specific questions. Like I said, we can double-click and change everything. Let's look at icons right here. Changing an icon is just as easy. Now, you have tons and tons of options on the icons. By the way, we ship with over 1,500 icons, so you can go ahead and look for the one you want, and obviously search is there. The other cool thing is, even if there's 1,500 icons, that's never enough. So if you, I'm going to bring this in. If you look at your DNN site under the icons folder, you can always create your own folder, drag in your own icons. These are SVG icons. I just called it my own branding, and it appears right here. And so you can go ahead and extend it just as easily. These are SVG icons, nice. So you can. Let me go ahead and actually grab an icon and put it right here, so I can go ahead and make it large without breaking everything else. And you can see these are SVG icons, so there's no distortion. You can go ahead and resize them just the way you want, how big or how small you want. So that's super cool. There's like literally a bunch of different options here. So I can change the colors, obviously. I can add a background really quick. If I want, I can give it a frame. Let's take the background out for a second so demonstrate that. You have color options for everything. So literally there's no end to the options in terms of how I want my icon to look. I have full control over the actual width and the padding, the actual size of the icon as well. So unlimited options there in terms of what you can do with icons. Talking about icon, let me bring that really quick in again as well. So there's no CK editor, right, in Manjaro. There's no HTML module. How would I link this to something? This right here, this is what we call our link control. So if you want to link this to Google, I would do that right here. And I can decide if this wants to open a new page or not. Now if you want to link to your existing page on your site, you could do that here as well. So that's also there. You want it to link to an email address, you could do that here. You just enter the email address and a subject. If you want to link to a phone number, you can do that here. Just enter the phone. So one of the goals was obviously to make it simple, but not lose on any functionality. We've actually added more than what we had with CK Editor. One of the things we're currently working on is you're going to get another icon right here, which when you click, will open your digital asset manager, so you can actually link it to any file on your system as well, on your file system. So that's pretty cool as well. So some of the options, let's see, if you look at the button, we got all the options. I can change it to fill, outline, small, medium, large. The alignments are there, the colors are there. So let me really quick talk about the alignment and color, and that once we understand one block, we'll understand how they all work. So I have the option to left align it, center align it, right align it, and I also have the option to kind of take that out, which is there's no alignment. And when I do that and I copy this, I get two buttons side by side. Versus if I were to center this or right align this, this will become a block element and go on its own block, and the other one will get pushed to the bottom. So if you want elements side by side, just uncheck your alignment. They're not aligned anywhere, and they're going to behave like inline elements. So it's pretty cool because it allows you to have a bunch of icons like I have in the bottom here, right next to each other. Simply toggle off that alignment. And you still have the alignment from your column or grid, so you can still go ahead and move it anywhere you want. It's not like you're limiting your design in any way. So that's alignment. They all work the same way. And the colors, the first 10 colors here, they're coming from your theme. So whatever theme you can actually select has its color palette. By the way, there's a separate theme builder built into Manjaro, so you can go ahead and customize any theme from any vendor with your own colors. Vendors don't have to build their own style switchers and customize this. That stuff is built in using SaaS. So it's really state-of-the-art stuff. What we did with our commercial theme is now built into the platform, so every vendor can take use of it. Not even just a vendor, theme vendor, but an extension or a module developer too. Because one of the things we've heard over these years is, hey, your live blog is great and comes with its own theme, but I want it to look and feel like my DNN theme, which I'm using from this X vendor. Well, I have no idea what that X vendor is doing in terms of styling. So now we've created a framework where module developer can pass on their styles to Manjaro, and Manjaro will let the end user customize it and match it with their theme, just using drag and drop and just quick buttons. But again, like I said, we have a lot more to cover. That's coming down in future. So these 10.
I can envision that with themes, your templates and your page structures will play a bigger role, and you'll have a better way to produce ready-made, good-looking sets of content. I can only imagine what this will look like with Dixit or Porto or other things when you start to put them forward with it.
Yeah, so there's no concept of themes as we know within DNN, but that doesn't mean that there won't be themes for Manjaro. There'll certainly be themes for Manjaro. The purpose of them will be to speed up your development, so you don't have to go build the theme.
Right.
Yep.
Pre-made templates of everything.
And that's exactly how we're building it with that concept in mind, where the layout, the pages will be there for you, and when you set up a new site, it'll be ready, and you'll have all the pages built out. Also, I'll kind of give you an example, and I also see there's a question here. There's no HTML module, so there's no HTML.
Oh, that's me.
But is there an advanced mode for edits or so forth? So we had this question I think earlier today through one of the channels as well. Is there a way for me to look at the HTML source of the entire page? There is. We've purposely not exposed that option, and we probably won't at this point. There's really no need to go and change code manually, because if you have to, then we're defeating the purpose of building this platform. So then the question comes, well, there's always going to be that 5% edge case where I want to do something custom. This is not going to. So we built that in, and that is called a custom code. So you can go ahead.
Yeah, it's a block. That's your custom code block, right?
Your own custom HTML and source code and do whatever you want to. So that's kind of handled that way. For example, I could go ahead and put a div there and call it testing or anything you want. And as you can see, it's formatting and giving me kind of hints that I'm not closing my divs and so forth. So that's pretty neat as well. And it's oops. So that didn't go as well. And like I said, half of these blocks right here is I am on a different branch, and they're not supposed to be working anyways, and I'm just dragging and getting ahead of myself. So yeah, to answer that question, then you certainly have control over source code, at least for your own section that you want to build where you want the source control. You can certainly go ahead and do that. So we were right here. Let's jump back in. And there's 10 colors, and obviously they're a custom color picker, so you can go ahead and choose the color you want, whatever color you want. Now, the cool thing with this our custom color picker is it also kind of shows you the last recent colors you were using. So once you choose a color here, for example, I chose a green color here, then I can go over here and well, another bug. The green color is still there. It should have carried over to the next one. I think right now it's just carrying over to the same element, but it should carry over to all blocks. So that recent color kind of helps you to toggle between and so forth. All right, let's see. Well, let's talk about images. I'm going to go ahead and get rid of this one. I'll drag another one in here. This is our digital asset manager that's there, but what you're seeing right now is an image picker, which is a subset of it. It's only showing you images, so I can quickly go ahead and toggle. And like I said, with any view, you can quickly click and see how it looks, and then double click to select it. So that's always cool. I can same way resize it, and if I hold on to Shift, I can do free resize, Control Z, and get out of there. Sometimes you let me go ahead and drag another image in here, and you got to upload a new image. So just click on the top there, and let's see, don't have anything. That's not fun. Okay. Well, let's upload this one right here, and let's close that out, and then it's right there. So I can go ahead and select it. And obviously, I could have multi-upload as well. I don't have to do one image at a time. I can go ahead and do drag and select, and then now I should see a total of 3 images down there. So that's super easy, super cool. But even cooler, which I find, is I can go online and I have more broken stuff. This one should have been right here on the right, but it is integrated with online search, so I can look for an office. And now what it's doing is actually talking to Pixabay, which is a royalty-free image citing, and brings all those images for me. So at my disposal, I got thousands and thousands of images now that I can look through. You can quickly click on one, preview it. Now, I'm not downloading these, I'm just previewing this right now, so they're kind of hot linked to Pixabay. But the moment I choose one by double-clicking, I actually download the image in the background behind the scenes, save it on my local file, so Pixabay doesn't have to serve it, and I don't have to worry about their server's availability. I can tell that by double-clicking here, and if I look at my local file picker, I see the file saved right here. So that's pretty cool. All right, I think a lot of folks are dropping off because we are getting closer to the time. Let's take a couple of questions.
Yeah, we have some questions, and if we're trying to think of wrapping up in the next 15 to 20 minutes, that'd be good. So we're seeing the front end, and we're able to see several of these on the videos that you're putting out, one each day. So we have some ones that we can look forward to coming up. But let's talk a little bit about how this all sits on top of DNN, because that's been a lot of the conversation that I've had with people who are spitballing ideas and trying to guess how this is happening. So let's ask you a bit. So to begin with, is this a standalone install that has to begin as Vangero, or can an existing DNN instance be updated or installed to become a Vangero instance? And in that situation, what is it? Is it a module that's installing? Is it a new build of DNN that's installing on top of the existing DNN?
Yeah, that's a great question. And just give me a quick second. Quick second here. I have my dog here with me. I want to get out of here, so before it barks, let me out.
I have a cat that's been bugging me. I had to get up and let the cat out 2 minutes ago as well.
I apologize. She's
no worries.
She's 10 years old, and she kind of wants to sit with me all the time, but then
yeah.
she has moments.
Right. An office dog or an office cat is a great thing.
All right. So the question was, how do we install it? Do we have to start fresh with Vangero? So the answer to that is no. You could take your existing DNN installation and kind of migrate to Vangero. So here's how this works, Ryan. If you remember, over the last 3 years, we've been having conversations that when Next or when a .NET Core version of DNN may come, it will have breaking changes, and we will have to have 2 separate products. And what we could do is, at best, offer a migration path. And that's what we've done. So you could take your DNN site and upgrade it to Vangero, and your existing site will work as it is, out of the box, so you don't have to worry about breaking anything. Going forward, any new pages you build will automatically switch over to Vangero architecture, and you will have the ability, if you want to manually go ahead or an automated process that we can put out to convert your existing pages to use Vangero architecture as well. but that migration path is there. And obviously, if you install Venjaro from scratch, then that's a separate. There's no concerns there. So I believe we have another question from Mike on the server.
Well, yeah, kind of down that line. Then, you're describing it as it being I guess, a platform that's installed. Looking at this, you want to install 4 more DNN modules so that they can be extensions that are available in the system. Within the interface we're looking at now, there's a different back end. How does one get to screens where they're doing traditional DNN type things like installing new modules? How's that performed?
Yeah, so this is Brian, like I said, we ripped everything off from DNN. So while removing all the functionality, this is not just slapping some UI on top and then letting you go back to persona bar to everything else. So we rebuilt everything. You could go down to tools and go to extension and plugins, and that's where you install your new extensions.
Okay.
So everything in there. Some of the stuff, like I said, is still getting polished. It's all functional, but with bugs. So we're fixing those. And
sure.
And as we fix each one, that's when we kind of put a video out for them. So everything is in there.
Yeah.
There's no persona bar in here. There's not a single screen that you would see in DNN that you will find here. Not even one.
I see.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not a small list that you're reproducing and rebuilding and refactoring there. So
correct.
There's a lot to do.
I mean, if anybody worked on taking DNN 8 to DNN 9, you would know the amount of work that went into just replacing and creating that persona bar. Well, we had all that work because we got rid of persona bar. In addition, we got rid of every single skin object. We got rid of every single ASCX in the platform that was used for things like login and register and send passwords and stuff like that. So it was mammoth amount of work, and that's why it's really not an extension. You can't just install it on top of DNN as an extension. It's like a combination of 70+ extensions. So I was having a conversation with Mitchell Sellers, and he basically kind of helped us understand this, that we are basically a solution provider now at this point, that we've built a solution on top of DNN platform. Having said that, we don't modify the core in any way. So your core DNN platform is still there, and it's built on top of it.
Interesting.
So let's.
So when you, the question coming up here is that when then subsequent. Sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead. Right.
What I was saying is that then when subsequent versions of DNN are released, then you have a 9.5 release and then a 9.6 release. When you're running Venjaro, you would hold and you would wait for. Are you going to put your numbers in step with it? So you'd be waiting for Venjaro 9.5 and Venjaro 9.6?
So Ryan, these are all amazing and beautiful questions, and honestly, we are finding answers with the community ourselves. Because we didn't foresee this, and a year ago we started off with a experiment. Can we do this? And to actually achieve our goal, which was to build something which is that easy, we realized we have to basically kind of start from scratch.
Yeah, rebuild so much.
Rebuild, yeah. And so we really didn't spend a lot of time in foreseeing how to address these questions, and that was the exact purpose why we created Venjaro.com, joined the conversation, where we want the community to come and tell us what would they like us to do. Because our goal here was simple, is we've been in this industry with DNN ecosystem for 15 years. We didn't have a single open source project out there. So this is our time to give back. And
you chose such a small, tiny little thing to do.
Yeah, so we built this. We're going to open source it. And put it back to the community. Now, as a community member, I do know that when Evoke came out with different versioning that was not in sync with the DNN platform, it was a chaos. So my understanding would be we'd probably keep the same versioning, so there's no confusion. But
perhaps you're doing every other one, or only when there are subsequent things that would impact Venjaro, because if a release for 9.6 has in its interface things that don't apply to Venjaro, then maybe you would go from that Venjaro 9.5 to Vangero 9.8 when there's something significant for Vangero or something maybe.
Possibly, yeah, possibly. And like I said, that's perfectly, that's really why we want the community to chip in and let us know which direction they would like us to go. Because we really don't know what's the best way to position this right now.
Okay, so then I have another question thinking about how to install it and the type of clients which will want to have something like this. If you're installing this and this is a whole solution, are there DNN instances that this won't be able to be installed on? And I realize that might be an unknown for you because this is still so early in concept, you're not even debated yet. But within DNN community, it seems like this would install and this gets you all these wonderful features. Could this be installed within an Evoke instance? You would be losing Evoke-related items, which you're not needing, especially if you get such a streamlined building interface. Would this be a path that Evoke customers could do, or perhaps this would not be compatible?
Yeah, that's an amazing question. So right now, all right, I'll talk about it. Although I'm not sure if I should, but I will talk about it.
All right, we can finish the meeting and we can go off record if we need to go off record.
It's okay. I mean, it has to be talked. We have right now about 5 clients that are running Evoke and have already committed to moving over into Vangero. We don't necessarily see creating a migration path from Evoke to Vangero, but we do know that you can downgrade from Evoke to platform. So that is the route we probably will take them, that they can downgrade from Evoke to platform and then migrate to Vangero.
The element that I could imagine an Evoke customer wanting to keep, but still get all of the benefits of Vangero would be perhaps the structured content material that they might have created with live content. So perhaps then it goes to something else where it's a combination of your migration path gets them into a couple of Mandeep products and Vangero, and then that gets them what they want. Regardless of whether that's on top of or within Evoke or if that's off of it. Preserving the functionality was the part I was thinking of first.
Yeah. No, obviously, I mean, if you are running liquid content, for example, then you are kind of married to their cloud and microservices. You can't go to platform without losing that. So that's an obvious. But if you are using, so there's a lot of stuff that we built into the platform which goes in Evoke, and I really didn't understand. Like, for example, log in as a user. That should be super easy, and that's kind of built into the platform now here with Vangero.
Yes.
Why? So they're not going to lose on such things, but if they're kind of using liquid content, then I don't think there's an alternative anyways. They can't run liquid content, Evoke, and Vangero together if that's the question.
Interesting. I'm sure there's a lot to figure out over time, but it's one of the first things I thought about. Okay, well, so we have crossed 8 o'clock. It's 8:10. I've asked a bunch of questions. Let me turn around and ask the group of everyone who's online. We've been asking for questions and putting them in as they come up in the chat, but let's open it up to the floor and see what questions might not have been asked yet from the group. Anyone else have something ready they want to ask about? Mark, you've been participating a little bit in chat, but did you have any questions? The presentation and the editability of this is something that I thought of you when I saw some of my first videos. What are your first thoughts?
Hi, Ryan. Yeah, I'm here.
Great. We hear you.
It looks great. Yeah, I think what you know about me is I would have a lot of clients who would be using this. And so I would be looking to see how easy they could pick it up and run with it. So I'll be evaluating that, and I'm looking forward to seeing you at the conference or at the summit.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yep. Well, Mandeep, we had a few more questions come in from the group, and one of them was, when will the SDK be ready? I did have a question earlier in that was asking about, about the open source, offering here. This is eventually going to go out on GitHub, and it's going to have other community participation. What's the roadmap for that as well? Once you get to beta and then you have an initial release, maybe it opens up after that. Are you already having some people contribute early on? What's the frame look like?
So the only reason it's not on GitHub right now, it's two reasons. One, and most important, is the core library that we use in Mandeep.com products is the library that we built Manjaro on. And that library is basically our IP, intellectual property, that we built over the last 10 years, which we're now open sourcing for Manjaro.
Interesting.
But within that library, we have more than a dozen different components that we've licensed from different vendors for different reasons, for all of our different products. So we can't just go ahead and open source the whole library. So what we have to do internally is create a separate library which has just the open source stuff in it. That's going to power Manjaro, and then put it in GitHub. So that's going to take us some time, which we're currently working on, but we're talking about 10 years worth of library that we have to go and look at each component. So it's a painfully resource-intensive work that we're doing. And to give you a hint, our goal is around the DNN Summit, where we would want to do something like that, where it's out, the code is out in the open. So we're working on that. And the second reason, honestly, why it's not on GitHub right now, because we are a commercial vendor and we've always been using Microsoft VSTS, Visual Studio. So our processes currently are, all the employees know exactly how to use VSTS. So we've been using the same processes to build this. But to answer your question, once we get to a official stable release or beta release, that's when we're going to go ahead at the same time, open the code up to the GitHub, where we want you to go ahead and come back.
Yeah, that makes sense from an organization.
Is interesting. We'll be happy to have them reach out to us. We'll be happy to have them join our private VSTS group and take a look at the code or even code away. Like I said, we are not trying to hide anything here. Our intentions are as clear as they could be. This is going to be open source. We are trying to fix everything we thought went wrong in DNN journey last 15 years. And we may not be the people to do it, but we're taking a shot at it. So
I had two or three.
We expected from DNN software, we expected from ESW, and they just didn't happen from as a vendor, from as a community member. And I'm not saying that's good or bad. Everyone's making decisions for their best reasons. But we feel that there's a lot that was missing, and we're going to go fill in those gaps and put it out for the community to use it.
Everyone has a vision of what they're looking for in the future or something they're imagining, and I don't think that one needs to apologize for jumping in to make that happen when they had a vision for the future and they didn't see it culminating. That's part of community projects is we all jump in where we can, but to some extent, you've got to have a singular vision and a singular plan of drive, and if you don't have that, you can't have a brand new direction emerge like what you've just done here. That took a team being led with a singular vision, and I, in discussing it with others about, whether it's open source now or it'll be open source later, I remarked you couldn't have done all of this in 1 year if it was open source. Not in one direction with this drive.
I was just about to make this point. I mean, we had a few members in the community reach out to us and say, hey, why didn't you coordinate with the core community, or why didn't you coordinate with the community at large before starting the project? And I just tell them this one thing in this great code I read somewhere, and I'm quoting somebody, I don't know who said that, but if you want to go quick, you go alone. But if you want to go far, you go with everyone. So we realized that, if we just open it for communication and to the community. So here's another perspective. We spent first 3 months coming up with a vision, what we want to build. The code, we built all this in less than 5 months in terms of actual code. So
when you conceptualized, what did you do for that? Were you whiteboard session and everyone drawing with markers and you were wireframing it? What did you do to conceptualize where you wanted to go with it?
So when we were conceptualizing this, like I said, we looked at some of the leading CMS and site builders out there, and we looked at WordPress, and we thought,
we can do better.
It's far easier to use than WordPress. So why is it so popular? So it turns out there's excellent plugins out there that you can use and install on top of it that makes life super, super easy and simple. So then we started looking at those plugins, and then we looked at SquareSpace, and we looked at Wix, and we looked at Weebly, and we looked at Duda, and we looked at Microweaver.
MailChimp. There were elements from MailChimp in there that I saw.
We literally spent 3 months looking at the best and the worst of everything, and then we said, okay, let's bring this down to one page of specs that we want to build. So we didn't, and that's where there's so many breaking changes in terms of we can't just give you an extension you install on DNN, because first we chose what we want to achieve, and then we figured out a way to get there versus working with our existing set of limitations. If I wanted to still keep the pane layout and still keep it skinned, then you can't get that comparable ease of use.
Yep. You couldn't have done this by committee with an in-specific direction. It wouldn't have turned out with this product this quickly.
Yeah, you need, having what you just said, I couldn't have done this with the community. Let me actually go ahead and for a record, say this. I couldn't have done this without my team. Let's forget about anybody. I think my team deserves a round of applause from me and everyone else who's watching.
Hear, hear.
I'm here today with us. I have Gagan, I have Pankaj, I have Nareen, I have Nikhil, I have Ishita, I have Swanand, I have Manish. So it's like we got the whole team here joined with us today. I am just the one guy who's leading them, but it is them who make this happen. I mean, without me saying, they're going to go back and look at where everything fumbled, and I assure you, tomorrow morning, every single thing will be fixed. And I don't even have to. They just do it so quickly in iterations, and that is the only way we could kind of excel towards this. Believe it or not, it took excruciating amount of work and resources to just be able to drag a module, which I haven't demonstrated, but watch out for the video next week because there's a separate branch where they're working on it. You can drag a module, any module, and it just, effortlessly displays without a page refresh, and you can move it around and delete it and go to its settings without a single page refresh. There's a lot of work that they did, and why it was more harder, because again, we were working in the limitations of DNN and this existing platform. So kudos to my team for making that happen. But yeah, to come back to your point, had we were discussing with a community at large, or even I think a couple more people on the vision, I don't think we would even agreed where to get to in about 6 months or a year, because everybody is going to have a different vision on where to go, and I think that's where DNN lacks today. In terms of where we are as a community, because we don't have a clear person at the top who can call shots. And if he can call shots, he doesn't have resources. So that's the problem why we don't see anything innovative happen within the platform. We have these great people who are working on the platform, and they're contributing and adding, but there's no single vision we're after. I mean, past 4 or 5 years, we were talking about MVC. We're going to move to MVC. Then last 2 or 3 years, we're talking about .NET Core. And by the time we'll come to actual work, where will somebody, and like I said, this is not community's fault. Every single person who's contributing in the DNN platform has a day job. We're doing this.
And there's a different dynamic. We're getting on to a different topic, which is a good could be a good whole Southern Fried meeting to itself. But there's a different dynamic. There's a different output. There's a different result, and there's a different purpose for community-driven systems like DNN. And they build in stability. They build in a lot of people doing slightly different things, and you move more slowly, but you move more solidly versus leaps and bounds being driven by singular vision and singular purpose. And that combines together with the community. It's not as though one's right or one's better. They work together, and they have different purposes. So I definitely think we can turn that into a whole nother meeting. Well, so to bring it back here, Mandeep, for what we're looking at, you said you have got a few more videos that are coming up, and we've got, of course, a presentation that's going to happen at DNN Summit at the end of February. So we're all going to be looking forward to that. I can anticipate that is going to be a packed room that is going to be running that session. So we might make sure that has double capacity ability. But you said that there's going to be a secret announcement, a surprise announcement at DNN Summit. But you also said there might be a surprise announcement here tonight for the people who stick around. So here at 8:22, I wonder, would you like for that to be a public announcement in the recording, or would you like me to end the meeting officially, and that's a surprise announcement for everyone who stayed online?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll get to it just in a second, but there's one more question I think Mike asked that wasn't addressed, so let me go ahead and do that real quick. Get to it. So Mike asked, as a website owner, if I install DNN 9.6, do I have to install DNN 9.6, or I just install Wangero X update and it already has DNN 9.6 in it? So Mike, you would just install the Wangero build, which will already have DNN 9.6 in it, so you don't have to do two installations. So basically, we'll take the distribution files from DNN and basically add the layer on top of it, and then redistribute that out to you, so you can install that to this way you don't have. And you would install it just like you do your normal DNN installations. It's perfect segue into the little surprise today. So everybody who's watching today and who wants to get hands on this, well, today, tonight at 12 o'clock PST, our site wangero.com will be updated, where you can click on a button called Request Early Access, fill in a form, and you will be given an early access as early as next week. You'll be able to download, install, play with it, and we ask that you come back to the site and give us your feedback and help us build a solid platform that we can all use.
Guaranteed. If you are looking for bug notes and first thoughts and feedback as everyone plays with it, sees what they can break and what works well, and absolutely, we would love to do that. I guarantee you.
Yeah, and like you said, I mean, I was on a wrong branch today, but I'm confident that you should be able to install your existing DNN modules and drag and drop and play with it and bring us all the issues that you see. Now, some of the things that are not ready will probably not be there, but everything that's shown so far in the videos will be there. And as far as videos goes, there'll be one out every day until the DNN Summit. We didn't have one today because we had live presentation, nothing better than that. But we will have one video out every day until the DNN Summit 2020.
That is exciting. That is fantastic. Well, everyone, I will finish up the meeting here. We're a little bit right at around 2 hours, which is our max for what we'd like to keep these meetings. But we don't often go over 8 o'clock, but we certainly do when there is content this engaging and content this exciting that is really speaking to the future of what we have to look forward to in exciting times for DNN. Thank you, Mandeep, for being with us and for presenting here so much great information. I personally will see many of you in DNN Summit here at the end of February. We will not have a Southern Fried meeting in February because of this, so we will pick up again on March, the third Thursday in March, which is March the 19th. We will have recap of DNN Summit. A lot of the information will be telling tales and showing pictures and talking about what we heard and what was exciting. And we will also be talking with David Poindexter about the GitHub triage and labels and really issue management that's coming with some of the organization that's there and certainly a way for everyone to not only participate, but to understand and get a better picture of what's happening with the issues, request, bug system reporting that's possible when we're cleaning up and organizing things there for GitHub and DNN. Thanks everyone who participated online. We will see you online at our next meeting, and if we can, I will buy you a drink. Come see me at DNN Summit, and I'd love to hang out with you. Thanks again, everyone. I will end the recording, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.